Good afternoon and welcome to Africa Today. I am Nmdpra. First, the headlines. On the headlines, FG freezes 600 accounts, seizes 286 assets. Away from the shores of Nigeria, Parliament extends state of emergency for 6 months. On the foreign scene, Burundi president sacks prime minister after coup claim. While on sports, Super Falcons end 20-year scoreless streak against the United States of America. And now the news in detail. The federal government of Nigeria, through the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that is the NDLEA, has seized no fewer than 286 assets and 600 bank accounts of drug barons between January 2021 and August 2022. NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi, who disclosed this in a document made available to news correspondents on Tuesday, said the assets consisted of 249 exotic cars and 37 mansions. The agency's seizures came against the backdrop of the categorization of Nigeria by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, as the transit point for heroin and cocaine intended for European, East Asian, and North American markets. The NDLEA, in the document made available to newsmen, said it was faced with the overwhelming task of drug control in a country with an exceptionally high prevalence of drug use of 14.4%. Explaining the seizures by the agency in the last 20 months, Babafemi said the assets and bank accounts were frozen, the properties forfeited, and were scattered across the country. Ahead of the 2023 general election, the Independent National Electoral Commission has pledged that no eligible Nigerian would be left out of the electoral process on account of displacement, disability, or other circumstances that may limit citizens' participation in the electoral process. Chairman of the Commission, Yakubu Mahmood, stated this in Abuja on Tuesday at the validation of revised framework and regulations for voting by internally displaced persons, that is the IDPs. Yakubu said the revised framework and regulations for voting by IDPs presented to stakeholders today has taken into consideration several developments since the last review and validation exercise in 2018.
To incorporate not only the displacement of citizens arising from armed conflict, but also natural emergencies such as flooding. Thirdly, to align the framework with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, specifically Section 24, subsection 1, which empowers the Commission to ensure that, as far as practicable, no Nigerian is disenfranchised on account of displacement by emergency situation.
Figures from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNICR, and Internally Displaced Persons Monitoring Center, IDPMC, indicated that in 2021, the number of IDPs in Nigeria rose to 3,228,380, hence the move by INEC, which is to ensure that no eligible Nigerian is left out of the electoral process. Yakubu also used the occasion to assure Nigerians that the Commission would display the comprehensive voter list in all the 8,809 wards and 774 local government areas and area councils nationwide as covered in Section 19, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act of 2022. Away from that one, now to security matters, where the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, has restated the commitment of the Nigerian Army towards the training of its personnel in maintaining peace and tranquility in the country. Yahaya further noted that doing so would help in equipping officers with the best global practices. He assured that the Nigerian Army was working round the clock to ensure the Nigerian space was safe for civilians.
As we are all aware, the current operating environment is dynamic and complex. It is therefore necessary to enhance capacity of personnel, particularly commanders at tactical level and operational level, for efficient and decisive employment of land power to achieve desired results.
Also speaking in his goodwill message, the Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Saad Abubakar, commended the Nigerian Army for their selfless service to the nation.
Commanding officers, the field commanders, operational commanders, under one roof to discuss issues is so important.
The Sokoto State Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, in his address, assured that the state would continue to have a good relationship not only with the Nigerian Army but all security agencies in the state.
The theme is apt, more so with this component of relating it to interagency cooperation.
The 2022 Nigerian Army's Second Commanding Officers Workshop at the Girinya Barracks in Sokoto said training and retraining personnel was very critical to achieving success. When we return, news from other parts of West Africa. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now to other parts of West Africa. Togo's parliament on Tuesday extended for 6 months the state of emergency in the Savannah region in the far north of the country, plagued by incursions by jihadist groups. Togo, according to Security Minister Damien Yark, the state of emergency creates the conditions of administrative and operational measures necessary for the proper conduct of military operations and a region to peace in the region. Also speaking, National Assembly Speaker Yawa Jibodi Segan, who said the objective is to give the defense and security forces the necessary means to stop the threat, while jihadist groups operating in the Sahel appear to be gradually moving towards the West African coast. Northern Togo has suffered at least 5 attacks since November 2021. According to the report, the deadliest attack in Togo took place in July, where armed men targeted 4 villages, and the army reported that several dead and some wounded, but did not give a precise toll. At least 6 civilians were killed and 8 injured when separatists in southwest Cameroon opened fire on a public bus on Tuesday. A parliamentarian for Ekona constituency, Findi Stanley Makondo, and the head of a regional hospital confirmed the attack but did not provide a death toll. Dr. Martin Mukaka, head of the main hospital in the regional capital, Biu, said 6 dead bodies and 8 injured victims had been brought to the facility. Anglophone insurgents fighting to carve out an independent state out of Cameroon's English-speaking northwest and southwest regions have escalated attacks, killings, and kidnappings this year. We now move to other parts of Africa. After this break, don't go away. New news from other parts of Africa. Burundi's president has sacked Prime Minister Alain Guillaume Bunyoni days after he claimed unnamed powerful people were plotting a coup against him. In a unanimous vote in Parliament on Wednesday morning, all 113 ruling members of Parliament voted in favor of President Evariste Ndayishimiye's proposal to dismiss Bunyoni. No reasons were given for the dismissal during the half-an-hour session. President Ndayishimiye said last week he would defeat the people plotting against him. Current Interior Minister Gervas Nmdpra has been named as the new Prime Minister. He is a former rebel commander, police commissioner, and army general. In an apparent protest against Libya's faction leader Najib Magoush representing the country at the Pan-Arab Summit, Egypt's foreign minister withdrew Tuesday from an Arab League session chaired by the chief diplomat of one of Libya's two rival governments. According to reliable sources, Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry left the meeting room in Arab League headquarters when Magoush took her seat to chair the meeting, as they have argued the mandate of the Tripoli-based government of Prime Minister Abdel Hamid Deiba, which ended after Libya's East-based parliament appointed a rival premier earlier this year. In response, the country's East-based parliament appointed a rival prime minister, Fathi Bashagha, who has for months sought to install his government in Tripoli. Libya's current political stalemate grew out of the failure to hold elections in December and Deiba's refusal to step down. The escalation between the two countries threatens to shatter the relative calm Libya has enjoyed for more than of the past 2 years. When we return, next is business news on Africa Today. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Africa Today on Hughes TV. Now to business news. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority, that is the Nmdpra, has revealed that Nigerians will pay as much as 443 naira per litre for the product premium motor spirit if the product is deregulated. The Executive Director, Finance and Accounts of the company, Abiodun Adeniji, made this known while presenting the agency's projections for the 2023-2025 medium-term expenditure frameworks before the House of Representatives Committee on Finance. Adeniji further explained that the daily depot truck out from January to August 2022 stands at 62.9 million litres daily.
Based on an average of what, if deregulated, the price of petroleum of PMS will be today, will be about 272 naira per litre. However, from our projection for the next between 2023 to 2024, our projections is that the open market price of PMS will go as high as 443, and this is based on the fact of the what I call changes in the dollar rate and the Ukraine war that is going on.
However, the lawmakers were not satisfied with what they described as conflicting figures being dished out by different government agencies on the average litres of PMS which has been evacuated daily. Still on business, as Gambian efforts to reach international markets in order to showcase and market their goods intensify, some Gambian traders have hailed the country's negotiations efforts through the Ministry of Trade to begin trading under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, that is AFCTFA. Still to come on Africa Today is Sport News. Stay with us.
Good afternoon and welcome to Sport News on Africa Today. I am Richard Badung. Super Falcons forward Uche Nakanu ended the United States of America women national team 4-month shutout streak in Nigeria's 1-2 loss to the four-time world champions in an international friendly in the early hours of today. The goal was also Nigeria's first goal against the four-time Olympics champions in 20 years. Nigeria's Super Falcons have conceded four goals in the first leg of the friendly match, put up an impressive performance in the early hours of Wednesday in the second game against the world champions, the United States women's national team. The 9-time African champions in the first game on Friday lost 4-0 at the Kansas City Stadium. Away from that story, after the completion of the fourth window of the FIBA World Cup qualifier, FIBA Africa has released the standing of the African team, where the Tigers has placed 9th on the log. The Nigeria's men's senior national team, the Tigers, put up poor performance in the qualifier that was held in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. The latest standing released put the Nigeria side in a distant 9th position, which further jeopardized their ambition of qualifying for the World Cup. Only 5 African nations will participate in the FIBA World Cup. The host of the fourth window qualifier, Ivory Coast, sits on top of the table with 12 teams on top of the 12-team table, followed by South Sudan and Egypt managing the second and third position. Only Cameroon, Guinea and Uganda are ranked below Nigeria in the released rankings. Still talking sports, World Cup trophy arrives in Senegal 2 months before the completion in Qatar. The former French international David Trezeguet unveiled it to the eyes of the Senegalese supporters who came in large numbers to welcome the golden trophy so coveted by the Lions of Teranga. The Lions of Teranga, the defending African champion, are one of the 5 African nations competing at this year's World Cup. Sadio Mane and his teammates share Group A with the host country, Qatar, and Netherlands, the Ecuador, also in the same group. Last February, Senegal won the very first African Cup of Nations, that is AFCON, in its history. The much-coveted trophy will be put back into play next June with the start of the qualifiers for the next AFCON, which will take place in Cote d'Ivoire. The African champions will be the ones to kick off the competition against the Netherlands on November 21. If this adversary stands as a top opponent, Ecuador and the country hosting the competition, Qatar, also in the group, stand as less insurmountable teams. And that's your sport news on Africa Today. Back to Ain and Lubem for the rest of the news. I am Richard Badung.
Thank you, Richard Badun, for the sports news. Now to the rest of the bulletin. Over 20 suspected armed robbers yesterday attacked some commercial banks in Nmdpra, Kogi State, north-central Nigeria. Sources in the town informed newsmen that the robbers arrived the area through the eastern flank in 3 vehicles, while others were on motorcycles, and blocked all exit routes and operated uninterrupted for more than 1.5 hours. Sources said the police station in the town was earlier attacked by the robbers on their way to the affected banks with heavy gunshots. One of the sources said after robbing the banks, they drove violently out of Nmdpra with unending gunshots escaping from Nmdpra through Okpo in Olamboro local government area, adding that nobody knows their destination as the shots were too heavy for the police to confront. And that's Africa Today, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. On the headlines, we told you FG freezes 600 accounts, seizes 286 assets. We also told you Parliament extends state of emergency for 6 months. We also brought to the fore Burundi's president sacks prime minister after coup claims. While on sports, we told you Super Falcons end 20-year scoreless streak against the United States of America. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Hills TV, follow our Instagram handle at Hills TV, watch our YouTube channel at Hills TV. I am Nmdpra. Thank you for watching.